Catch GurlTauX every day. Follow socials, here's the way.
GurlTauX, every platform come to play. Catch our vibe, don't delay.
Facebook, YouTube streams, scrolling through your daily memes. GurlTauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what GurlTauX is all about. Keeping it real, it's what we do. So tune in now and join our crew. Lights moving through the screen, click subscribe, don't be mean. Upbeat chatter, it's our routine. GurlTauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what GurlTauX is all about. GurlTauX is who we are. Come hang with us on your tablet, phone, or screen. Anywhere GurlTauX can be seen. GurlTauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what GurlTauX is all about. Update stories, laugh and cry. It's GurlTauX, so don't question why. It's the show that you'll adore. Come back daily to get some more. GurlTauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what GurlTauX is all about. GurlTauX is who we are. Come hang with us on your tablet, phone, or screen. Anywhere GurlTauX can be seen. GurlTauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what GurlTauX is all about. GurlTauX, log in now, watch our show. Likes and comments, let them flow. Every day we're on our way. GurlTauX show is here to stay. GurlTauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what GurlTauX is all about.
Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? How's everybody doing today? It is, I believe it's Thursday, but I could be mistaken.
Last time I checked, it is Thursday.
Oh, my husband is here, everybody. Steve came. You know why Steve is here? Does anybody want to know why Steve is here? Does Steve want to know why Steve is here?
Why is Steve here?
Does anybody want to know why Steve is here? I'm going to give you a hint. The reason why Steve is here is I had a bunch of men in the house today, and they were giving me lap dances, and
Whatever.
he's wondering where all the dollar bills went.
Yeah, if you're going to sit there and have them in there, they better be paying you.
No, I was paying them. No, we had we did have a bunch of men here today, but it was because our heating and air conditioning has gone to the fritzter. And so we had to have somebody come out and look at our AC units and give us an estimate for putting a new one in. And oh my God, they're so expensive nowadays. This is why Europe doesn't have AC. We're spoiled, I think, in this country.
I think so. And I was talking to him. The one guy was from Florida. Another guy was from here in Alabama. And the other guy was from Mississippi. And we came here 3 years ago from Nevada. Mm-hmm. We didn't have AC in Nevada. We had swamp coolers.
We had a swamp cooler.
Yeah, a swamp cooler.
A single,
and
not very big.
That swamp cooler.
Of course, our entire house could fit in this basement.
Well,
so.
yeah, that we had a small house, but still, a swamp cooler, which cost $1,200,
yeah,
could cool the entire house. And here, you go back to AC, and
well, it's definitely a dry heat.
There it was.
And I know this because when I first got out there, I don't even know if I mentioned this to you or not, but I had a bloody nose for days.
Oh, on the trip when you first got out there. I'm not
Mhm.
surprised. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
you're going from all the humidity
Donna
here.
kept going like, "Why is your nose bleeding?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I mean, it was really dry." And
Yep.
and I ended up buying a really good like lip balm thing,
Yeah.
but I didn't buy it for my lips. I bought it and I rub my finger on it and shove it up my nose and
Just try to
like
go
trying to
and keep
keep
things-
some kind of
yeah.
moisture on my nose because I've gotten used to this weather out here.
Right.
I
It's
mean, we have
different.
2 dehumidifiers in the house, one upstairs in mom's and one down here in the basement to try to keep
Right.
and I dump that thing all the time down here.
Yeah. It needs it.
If you don't dump it almost every day, if you don't dump it, it will just stop running because it'll be too full. So anyway, what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring Steve on. Is that your phone or my phone?
That was mine.
Oh,
It's
okay.
on silent now. So
Here, put my phone on silent while I'm talking. So I wanted to bring Steve on to talk about, for him, like all the things he was going through while I was on this soul journey of mine and what you're hoping came from it. What your feelings are about it, because we had conversations along the way.
Mhm.
And I want to get your perspective on what you're feeling and what you think.
Well,
How was it for you?
well, first off,
Besides the fact I abandoned you for 2 weeks.
no, I mean, it was this though. We knew it wasn't going to be an overnight trip. We knew it was going to be
Well, we
time.
knew it was coming.
Right. And the thing is, we knew that it was an upcoming event. So it's something that we had already talked about in depth quite a bit. So
Right.
it wasn't like it was going to be a shock that, oh, you were taking off. It's not like I didn't know it was
Right,
going to
right,
happen.
right.
It was definitely, you need to adjust my camera. It's not looking at me very well.
Oh, okay.
But we knew it was coming. So it wasn't like it was a surprise. And it was one of those things that we talked about it at length, and we had talked about whether to drive or whether to fly or what was going to be the best of what you should do and on how to do it and stuff like that. So it wasn't just an arbitrary, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. It was a discussion between us. That one's fine. It's fine.
Okay. All right.
It's just blocking the microphone.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's just blocking the microphone.
It's flying.
Yeah.
Um,
So, it was
right.
it was
Like
something
we
that
had
yeah.
planned, we had planned for it.
Mhm.
And, he couldn't go out with me as much as I would have liked for him to have come out with me too. But part of this was I said I was going to do a soul searching journey. Is that or is that the fan?
It's that.
Oh, can we turn it off
You can.
temporarily?
I can hear it. You can hear it. I don't think we can actually hear it in the.
I don't know. It's kind of loud. But we knew it was going to be a journey. And with that, I always think about like the feeling selfish, I guess, in a way, because I knew you couldn't go with me. And we have mom, we have 4 dogs, we have 2 bunnies.
Yep.
It's a bit to take and all of us go on a trip like that. And this was more of my journey. It's something I had to do.
It was
myself.
you and KK, the childhood friends. I haven't known her for
Since we've been together.
yeah, that's it. And it's not like we were next door neighbors where she was here every day. So I mean, I met her. We went down to their place for New Year's in Vegas.
Several other times, right?
And a couple times. But otherwise, I knew her from your
2
phone
a.m. phone
conversations.
calls.
From your conversations with her is where I knew her. So it wasn't like it
On
was
her
a
visit here.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the best visits
Yeah.
is when she came out here for you guys bonding wise.
Yeah,
You
it
got to
wasn't
know
a
her
dire.
quite a
It
bit.
wasn't a dire need for me to be there, as it wasn't my best friend. This was
Right.
my wife's best friend. And
Well, I mean, I'm sure some people could look at it like, well, don't you think she needed you to be there for support or
I
you
thought
know.
about that portion, about me being there to support you, but at the same time, you had Donna there for support. You were there for Donna as well.
Well, and honestly, the best support that you gave me was letting me go on my own
Mhm.
and doing this journey by myself. And the other biggest part of that is you letting me do this return trip the way that I wanted to do it
Yeah.
for the purpose of what I felt like I needed to do. Um, and I don't know that I could have done that the same way if you had not. I mean, I don't know.
If you were in a rush to get back because of something XYZ, whatever, obviously you wouldn't have been able to do that. You wouldn't have been able to have that as an option.
Right.
But we were able to sit there and coordinate it and make it work and allow you to have that option.
Exactly. I mean, there was a plan in place initially to just get on the road and come back home.
Yeah.
And then I'll admit, like, it was a little bit of a selfish want for myself to take this journey the way that I did, because listening to KK's daughter talking about her doing this soul searching journey that she was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about it and I was like, wow, like, I haven't done the coast. I'm going up to California. I'm really close to San Francisco. I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit to go back the other way. What if I just drive the coast? What if
Right.
I just go do the PCH and collect sand? And I am, so just a little clarification here. The collecting of the sand, a lot of people are like, oh my God, that's so silly or whatever. Or what are you doing that for? I've been collecting sand at different locations for a long time. This is not the first time. I have jars in my shop that say Florida, this beach and that beach, and South Carolina and North Carolina, and different places that I've been collecting either a rock or sand from places for a long time, and I use them in my art. So I have wanted some of these beach sands for a while. And it's one thing to ask people, if they're already going to be there, if they have a plan, if you have given them or sent them like a bag or something that they can put it in.
Right.
And you've offered to pay for them to ship it. But, not everybody lives at the beach.
Right.
So somebody to go along and collect up beach sand from, the 19 beaches I went to, that's a big ask.
Right. And it's, that typical thing. Oh, you're from California. Are you from you've seen Hollywood and you've seen all the stars? And it's like, no, we were in Northern California.
Right.
Is that type
We're
of
from
thing?
like Tahoe,
Yeah.
Reno,
Or you're from Nevada. Are you from Las Vegas? No.
Oh, do you go to Vegas all the time?
Right. So
no, it's like
the
an
same
8-hour
thing.
drive to go to Vegas.
Just because people that are in California doesn't mean they're going to be at the beach and be able to get that stuff for you. So you had an opportunity of a lifetime to take that time, make the trip, go down the PCH, make those stops, make those connections back to your school, go
and I
to
had nobody,
the restaurant, go to, you were able to make those pieces because you were fortunate to not be in a rush.
Well, and even when we're not in a rush, I do know that you're like, let's let's move forward.
Right.
So all the days, how many days did you call me and talk to me? And I go, guess where I am right now? And you're like, I don't know where you started.
Right.
Because I would be back where I started, or I backtracked again. And oh, it was only here. So I went back that way. And then I went back even more. And it's like, I didn't make any headway for like a day and a half.
Right.
Even though I had made headway, I backtracked again, and then I backtracked again, and then, oh, wait, I'm going to go over here. So, and taking the PCH, knowing there's a big segment of it that is washed out and gone.
Well, when I first was looking at that and you were talking about doing that, I warned you. I said, there's a section here that's showing me it's closed. It's like, make sure you can actually get through with no issues on there. Well, it turned out the day you left is the day they opened it up.
Not that segment though.
No, I'm saying there was a piece that was 100% shut down.
There's still a piece that's 100% shut down. It's that piece right after Pfeiffer, Julia Pfeiffer Burns Park. Shortly after that, that section is still.
That's down on the south end, though, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
There was a section,
but that section between Malibu, that was the section that was closed, and that they had just opened the day before I got there.
Yeah, and that section,
that was from the fires,
and that section actually ran north
for quite
a while.
Yeah,
and that was the piece that I was talking about that was showing as closed.
Well, that went all the way to where it's still closed. But they opened a big section of that out open. There's one small piece in between there that's still closed because it wasn't from the fires. It got flooded out and it took the whole section of the road.
Well, that's typical. You know, you have the rains after the fires, and now you don't have the ground covered to hold things in place. And,
so that's still
lose a lot.
That's still out. And that's a very small segment. Yeah. It's only a few miles, but that whole section. And the thing is, if anybody's ever been out there, or if you never have and you look it up, the Pacific Coastal Highway, Highway 1, if you're on that highway and you're going, you cannot shoot up another road to get back because it's a canyon. It's mountains. So you can't just go, okay, I'll take a left here and detour around the closure. No, you have to get back on the road and literally drive the exact same road. It's a one-way in and a one-way out. You have to go back the way you started. Mm-hmm. For me, it was like 33 miles. Now it spans like 600 and something miles, but that section to get back to a road that could get you over to the 101 is like 35 miles. So I think being by myself also gave me that mental freedom of saying, "Ooh, I want to stop here."
Yeah, you didn't have to coordinate with anybody. You didn't have to discuss it with anybody. You didn't have to agree on it. You were able to actually fully control what stops you made, where you made them, how you made them, why you made them. You can do all of that completely on your own. So that's a huge piece.
And I could go, like if it was you and I, we would have to negotiate. And it's all fair. It's like, hey, I really would like to go there. Now I have to admit, 99.9% of the time, I get what I want because you are such a thoughtful, giving, caring person. But when it comes to driving and road trips, you're not a big detour person.
No, I'm not. I'll admit. And I will say a lot of that is because 90% of the time when you and I are on a trip together, we have a specific destination in mind that we have to get to because there's something for us to do when we get there.
But even when we don't, even when we do, you don't have there's something in your brain that doesn't allow for deviations.
Right.
Like if you have a destination, this is where we're going. The deviations are potty stops and gas, and that's it.
Right.
There is no, hey, this says there's a such and such over here. It's like, and was that on the plan?
Right. And that a lot of that also comes back to okay, did we plan for this? Was there the people, are we meeting somebody at the other end? Did they have a timeline that we were telling them that we were going to be there? Are we going to get there late and be disruptive? You know, it's after 10 o'clock at night.
Absolutely. Now, I
Those are
do
the things,
agree
and
100% with that.
but that's where I'm at 90% of the time. You weren't worried about that.
But even when we don't have those stipulations, you just tend to just navigate back to, we have a goal. We have a destination in
Yeah.
mind,
Very often.
and the meandering, so to speak, that I tend to want to do. Like, you would have been okay with going to the craft show, but 5 minutes in, you'd be like, did you find what you want? We got to go.
Right.
Like, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been like, okay, it's fine that you're just meandering around and talking to people. And, you know, I didn't tell you this, but one of the booths there, and maybe I did tell you, but one of the booths at that stand was from Lake Tahoe.
Yeah, you mentioned that, yeah.
But what I didn't mention is Catherine worked for them, Kristen's sister.
Oh, wow, okay.
She worked for them at their bakery. Hi, Catherine. And they said, oh, because they knew who they were. And
Gotcha, okay.
as soon as I said who I was going there for, and they said, oh, wow. And they asked about Catherine, and I said, yeah. And they said, is she still a baker? I said, actually, yeah, she is in Hawaii. And so that was kind of cool. It was like a little out of the blue, somebody that actually knew that family that I ran into in Morro Bay at an art craft fair that you're not expecting to run into.
Absolutely.
Now, I did have to buy something from them, and I'm not going to shout them out, but they make basically similar things that I make, like charms, and some of the things I make that are the charms and stuff made with UV resin and a necklace or whatever. So I did buy something from them. I bought a heart, one to patronize them, but they're from Tahoe.
Yeah.
I would have preferred for them to have something Tahoe shaped, but they didn't. So I went with a heart. And but I wanted to support their business. I love supporting local businesses. I love supporting especially local artists. I think I've converted you to doing the same.
I prefer to do that a lot of times. I mean,
you didn't before.
Before it wasn't about that. It was about expedience.
Expedience and is it a known brand? Not like a designer brand, but is it a known company? Is it something that can back itself up? You know, if something goes wrong with it, you know, I can return it to this company. And we're all so used to going to box stores where it's very easy to just want to go to box stores, where I tend to want to patronize local businesses and local restaurants. I'm the one that kind of pulled you out of just going to what you know.
Well, I was not a craft fair person.
No.
I was not a, my dad, his terminology for those events.
Yeah. Which one? You mean the let's take a detour, or
no,
the shortcut?
No, the event itself.
Oh, the crap fair.
Yeah, it's a crap fair. It's not a craft fair. It's a
crap fair.
It's a crap. That was my dad. It's a crap fair.
But I will say that on many occasions, you and your dad would appease me and your mom and take us to the crap fair.
Oh, yeah.
Now, granted, the two of you would go find a place where you could buy a beer and maybe a snack. Well, mom and you're like, did you find any crap? I remember numerous occasions where we would come back and you and Pop would both say, like, did you guys find any crap?
Yeah, and that was it. Now, the other half that you were talking about the shortcuts, my dad was infamous for. It was for us. It was especially Easter Sunday, because for us, we would always do Easter Sunday brunch. So on Easter Sunday, we were always going to drive somewhere. We were going to go to brunch.
So your dad had Sunday fun days,
And it was notorious that he would have a shortcut
which was
to
the
get us
long
home,
route.
which was a totally off the beaten path, did not get you anywhere near where you wanted to go. But he continued those even when they were in Reno, when
But
they were in
it's
Carson
what
City.
gives you places that you can go and
You've never seen
find that you would
before.
never seen before. Like I do admit that ghost town that I told you watch on YouTube. I wish I had known about it on my trip because I would have detoured and gone there.
Right.
Cerro Gordo. It's right outside of LA.
Yeah.
Dude, I would have totally gone there. Now, it might have been an hour backtrack. I don't know because I didn't look it up, but it might have been an hour backtrack to get there. If we were traveling together, you'd be like, we're not going an hour that way.
Well, today in our current situation, you're absolutely right. That's what that would have been my thought process. Now, as we move forward, and for everybody knows that we have the ambulance and we're going to be converting it and everything else. This weekend, we actually did a lot of measuring and a lot of research and
skilling out what we're going to
figuring out-
actually having things that are like set aside in a cart for it.
We know
we found the sink.
We know the sink that'll
yeah.
fit where we want it to fit. We know the refrigerator will fit where we want it to fit. We know a freezer that'll fit where we want it to fit. So
speaking of that, the sink, I found the one that pops down. But there's also one that folds into the sink when you put the lid on it. So it doesn't have to have it's exactly the same sink. It just has the flip down.
No, one was 23 inches, one was 22 inches.
Oh, okay.
So they were not exactly the same sink.
See, but it is. I mean, we're so in sync with so many things, but there is some great differences between us that allow for. I push you to be more open-minded. You push me to be on time.
Right. And or, like I'm saying, my thing is
mindful.
My thing is this, as we push forward with that, the hour backtrack when our hotel room is right behind us isn't the big deal. It's not like we have to get somewhere to find a hotel and check in, and how long is it going to take? And
he does not like my off the seat of my pants. I don't have a destination hotel planned and prepared.
Today's environment, correct. I think as soon as the ambulance is up and running and we're using that, and we've got,
I got a chill suddenly.
And we're going to sit there and
it's the Fireball. I'm sipping cold ass out of the freezer Fireball. What do you have, babe?
What do you think?
Oh, bourbon.
Angel's Envy
bourbon.
But yeah, it's a whole,
I'm drinking a little fire and sugar. He's drinking gasoline.
It's definitely a little bit of a different mindset.
Well, especially once we get to a point where you're retired. I mean, we know it's going to be at least 3 years, 3.5 years till you get retired. And we can't take off till you retire.
But the main thing is, if we can sit there and, okay, we've talked it, I don't know how many hundreds of times. We need to go to Dollywood.
Right.
Well,
that's not very far from here.
Once the ambulance is up and running.
It was voted the #1 amusement park just recently.
I'm not surprised. But it's one of those things where it's like, now
Disney is out and big boobs are in.
Right.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Big ears are out. Big boobs are in.
There you go. But it's one of those where right now for us to go there, it's several hour drive to get there. You spend the day. You're not going to drive back that night. You've got to have something planned. You have to figure out what you're going to do.
Right.
Once the ambulance is in play, and we've got it set up the way we want it.
At least getting certain stages of it ready, where we have the potty part.
You get the drive there.
Get a bed of some sort.
Yep.
And comfort to drive there.
Yeah.
it's not that big a deal to go.
Right. It's a whole different ball game because and even we've got the fifth wheel, and I don't think we're ever going to use it again. I'm not. It's an older unit, whatever.
Well, we told the
don't
kids
have-
they can have it
We don't have a truck. We have a truck that can pull it, but it's not
locally.
It's not a long distance comfortable drive to pull it with that truck. It's an older truck.
It's an older truck, and it's a stick shift,
So,
and you would
yeah.
definitely have to
You
would
know-
definitely have to like plan and prepare to be able to do that, because it is a lengthy thing that
Right.
it's not comfortable. There's no AC.
Yeah,
One window doesn't even, it's a 91
91
F-150
F250.
F-250. I mean, it's a heavy duty truck. We call her Bessie. We call her Bessie. She's our ranch truck, and it's good for going to town and picking up.
It's good for
wood
going to the
or-
hardware store and
yeah.
picking up supplies for buildings and stuff like that. It's great for that.
It's not, I
But
mean,
it's
it
not-
can hold her.
It's not the comfort. It's not the long distance travel. It
She brought her here,
right. She did.
which I tell you, to backtrack a second, on our trip out here when we moved here, that thing was supposed to be empty.
Yeah.
That was our goal, is for it to be completely empty, everything on the moving trucks. And with the last minute notice of 1 week for mom to go with us, that thing ended up loaded down.
Oh yeah. It was
Absolutely
It was loaded.
loaded to the max.
And the bed of the truck.
the bed of the truck
in and
was
around the
loaded
fifth
all the
wheel
way
was
around the
loaded.
fifth wheel,
Right.
so that it just had enough turning radius, and that was it.
Right.
I mean, that thing was packed like a sardine can. Like, you couldn't stay in it.
No, because that was our plan. We were going to stay in it, and
And,
we
oh,
could not do.
We could not
make
do that
happen.
because we had to fit as much of stuff as we could with mom's stuff into the trailers. We left a lot of our stuff behind to make sure we could get all of mom's stuff in, and then loaded that truck down. And the entire route here, I'm driving a F-350 with a
Okay. Hold on.
40
Hold on. A
a Chevy.
Chevy 3500.
A Chevy 3500. Sorry, Andrea. With a 50-foot car hauler.
Yep.
Carrying our car, our boat, motorcycle, and a bunch of other crap. We look like the Beverly Hillbillies going across country. I'm driving that truck with that trailer, and he's driving the other truck with the trailer. My cousin is driving my mom's bus with mom with her car in towed behind it. And we have radios so we can talk to each other. But every hill we got to, every single time we got to a place where it looked a little sketchy, I would just say, you think you can, you think you can, you think you can, you think you can, all the way up the hill. And you know you can, you know you can, you got this, you got this, you got this, you got this, good girl. And Steve would, I'm sure he was saying something very similar in the cab of his truck, but never
Out loud.
not one time did I say out loud, nor did he say out loud, I don't know if she's going to make it.
Right.
Because we didn't want to put that into the universe.
Right. I mean,
I think we had a fear that if we said it out loud, she would hear it.
Right. I mean, that thing's got twin tanks on it. One I think is 12 gallons. The other one's 14 gallons. So we had, 26 gallons worth of fuel in that thing. It's a gas truck. It's got a big,
Oh my God.
big Ford,
And it's a 91,
Ford
so
460.
it didn't pass the gas station.
Right. Big Ford 460 in it. So it had all the power in the world to get there, but I'll tell you, it didn't have speed.
Like
and
going up some of those hills. I mean, when
was
I
down
was
to 25,
when I
20
was
miles an hour.
sometimes you were down to like 15.
Yeah, it was rough.
I know that those were the times that I was behind him going, you can make it, you can make it, you can make it, you can make it, you could do it, you could do it, you could do it. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Yeah.
And then she would.
Yeah, she'd get to the top of the hill and it was just like relief.
It was almost like she farted as she got to the top
Yeah,
to give her the wind
it
to
was
go
just
the rest
relief
of the way.
that she made it to the top.
Yeah, for sure.
So like I said, so there's differences in that travel and that plan versus what we would do together. And like I said, I'm one of those that I like having a good solid, okay, we're going to go here and we're going to stop for the night at this place. And
Well, and you're not a night man. You're
no,
not a night owl like I am. I can drive at 2 a.m. and I'm okay.
yeah, I
Steve
can
is like
I can drive at 3 a.m, but
When-
after I just woke up.
when he woke up, and he can drive till like 9 o'clock at night. But about 9:15,
Take me
9:30, he's
3 a.m.
his
to
eyes
9
are closing.
3 a.m. to 9 o'clock at night, I'm good. But you try
Funny
to
thing,
get
our
the-
new car will tell you your eyes are closing.
yeah, our new car will actually tell you you're not paying attention to the road.
No, it will literally say eyes closed identified.
Yeah, it's
Not just that you're not paying attention
Yeah.
to the road, just that I identified that your eyes are closed, sir. You need to open your eyes.
Yeah,
It's like,
that-
holy cow, that the technology is something to be
that's pretty interesting.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. But again, like this trip, I think there's things that I did on this trip that I talked to you about, like spending time with Shane and
Mhm.
actually getting to sit down with
And
him
that
and
made
talk
me
some things
that made
out
me very happy that you were able to do that.
and find some forgiveness and find some grace. I think one of the things that is hard to talk about, but he's like, it took me until now to realize you were a child.
You were 17.
You were not like, you go and you think somebody who's got kids. I'm 54 now, and people go like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you've done this and this and this and this, and you have kids this age and da da da." Yeah, but it's because I started being an adult. I mean, a full ass adult, not necessarily responsible, not necessarily a good adult, but I started being an adult at 16 and a half years old.
Right.
So at that age, I know now that I wasn't an adult. I was not old enough to know, comprehend, and do the things that I should do as somebody who's in their mid-20s, 30s,
Mhm.
having their first child.
Right.
Their plans are in place.
Shane is 20,
20.
30. What is he now?
1988.
Don't make me do math.
You're the mathematician.
I'm not at work. I'm not at work. 88. So we're coming up on 28. So that's 30, 36, 37, 36.
36.
So 36 years old, him and his wife just had their first child.
She'll be 2 in
She'll
July.
be 2 in July. So 2 years ago. So he waited until he was in his mid 30s
to have a child.
to have a child.
But he's got a great career,
Mm-hmm.
finances, all the things prepared. I was a child, and as great of a dad as he was a man.
Yeah, he was much older.
He was much older than I was. And we did it, we talked a lot about that. And I don't want to go into a bunch of details because of their privacy.
Right.
But, it's not his fault. It's not my fault. Honestly, a part of it, I blame the parents in some essences. I love my parents. They did the best job they could do too. But
Right.
at the same time, like, part of my feelings is my parents should have said,
You're too young.
"You're too young," or "Get the fuck away from my daughter."
Yeah, there's right.
But he was such a good guy, so it made it really difficult for them. And I know a little part of me felt like when we were together and when we got married and all that, and everything happened too much, too fast,
Mhm.
is he was a parent. He was my father, not my husband. But I didn't understand what it meant to have a husband or to be a wife until I was much older.
Right. That's the big thing. So the point I was getting at is, with Shane waiting as long as he did, his view of parenting is much, much different than your view was when you had him.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in time, when Zoe is going to be 2, at the time when Shane was going to be 2, you were 19. Okay. There's a large difference in points of view from a 19-year-old versus a 36-year-old.
A 19-year-old Marine wife.
Right. 19-year-old Marine wife who
spent a lot of time on my own.
Wasn't thinking about the career because you were married to a Marine.
I never went to at that point I hadn't even finished high school.
Yeah, you weren't worried about, what career were you going to follow?
Like, I was so dumb and so stupid as a teenager that when I found out I was pregnant, I dropped out of school like weeks before graduation. And it took years later that I even found out. I mean, I got a GED later. I put myself through college and I did things later.
Right.
But like, I didn't even know that if I had actually gone and sat down with somebody and talked to somebody, and that's where I look at my parents too. My mom, my dad, I was living with my dad at the time. He should have stomped down to the school and said, no, you're not quitting school.
Mhm.
You can graduate. You're not going to be showing a bump. Like, I wasn't even I was barely pregnant at that time. And I had enough credits to graduate. I didn't even know that because I had honors and I had all this other stuff. And I was smart. Like, I was one of the smartest. I could sleep.
Stop. Okay. What word did you use? I was smart. You still are. You're a very intelligent individual. And sometimes I've got to kick you in the butt to remind you to not look back that direction and say, I was, because it isn't I was, you are.
Well, no, I mean, what I'm saying is school-wise, I was very smart.
Yes.
And I could be sound asleep in my class. And my teacher could be like, walk up, knock on my desk and say, hey, Tori, wake up. We got a quiz. And I'd be like, give me the quiz. Hand it back to him. And he'd be like, I can't say shit. She's sound asleep in the class, does the quiz, answers 10 questions, and she's the only one in the class that got them all right.
Right. Right. So, and I'll admit, I sucked at school.
Did you know the fun fact about Shane's dad? That he was struck by lightning? Did I ever tell you that story? His nickname was Sparky. He was on, what was that? And that's the end of the story. Do you remember that? It's from the Midwest because he was from South Dakota. And that's the end of the story.
And that's the rest of the story.
Or that's the rest of the story.
Called Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey. He was on Paul Harvey and they called him Sparky. And he was struck by lightning. And the story he told me is that he was, I'm just throwing words in there, but basically dumb as a box of rocks. He was struggling to get mid-grade grades till he was struck by lightning, and then he became like a little ingenious and got really, really, really smart. Excuse me.
Sammy, I 100% agree. She does indeed be smart. Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
You do indeed be smart.
And on top of that, like you said, you wouldn't know half of what you know if it wasn't for your mom. I mean, your your mom has done a lot of things and did most of them on her own because there was no one else there to do it for her. There was no one else there to push her to do a lot of things. And you've even said, Sam, that in some ways, when I came along, I kind of actually stunted her progress because I have always wanted to do things for her, where if I didn't do some of the things for her, it would force her to do them herself. And she could possibly be in a better position than she is now. So, and Sam, I 100% agree with you. I can't get past that. I'm that person that I want to do for your mom as much as I absolutely can. That's just who I am.
You know, and it's always hindsight's 2020, because I look at some of these people and couples that the husband and wife, they plan, they get married, they have kids.
Right.
She can work, she can not work, and I didn't mean this to turn into a fucking cry fest.
That's okay, babe. You're good.
But sometimes we're dealt the hands we're dealt.
Right.
And I can say I have jealousy for those things. Because I wish I had known you. I wish we had gotten together, made a plan, had our children, raised them together. We would have been great parents together. Because the person you are and the person I am, we would have connected all the time.
Right.
Whether we would have found each other is a different story, but we would have been great parents together. And we would have been able to be those parents that our kids could look back at and say, you're what emulate a beautiful marriage.
Right.
Because we would have stuck through. I mean, we've gone from living in a house, in a duplex, to his parents together, to another house, to a tent city that we made, to an RV, to a house, to this house. So we've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations. And I look at it like, man, if you can make it through all that, you're an idiot if you can't make it together.
Right. And the big thing is, you know, we've said it before, you know, we complement each other. You're very artistic. That's not me.
Well,
you know,
and we also have that rule that
I don't make it pretty. I make it functional.
And I hope my kids have the same rule. The rule that you can't come down when I'm down. Absolutely not. That is one of our biggest rules, is we can't come down together.
Yeah,
we all can have our moments.
We can't both be in a down spot at the same time.
Right. We all can have our moments. But if I've already shown the sign that I'm having my moment, and my glasses are all dirty, but if I'm showing that I'm having a down time, a down moment, you cannot come down with me. You have to build me up, pick me up, and pull me out of the ashes.
Right.
And if you're having that down moment or that down time, because we all have it.
Yeah.
Anybody who says they don't go through depression or feeling bad about themselves or the woe is me moments.
It's a degree difference.
Right.
But it's not a absolute never type thing.
But if you come down with your partner, that's when you see couples that are doing drugs together.
Yeah.
Because they bring each other down
they're both
instead
down,
of somebody lifting the other one
they're
up.
Both down. They're both looking for an escape. And it doesn't
you have to pull the other person out of the shallows. You know, you have to pull that person up and out, you know, and so that brings me to part of this discussion is, you know, I've never been the person succumb to addictions. I've never done drugs. Been accused of it many a time, but I've never done drugs. Don't know what they are like. I have tried marijuana like 3, 4, 5 times maybe in my life. I know twice before I went into the military, and I knew exactly when I did those. And then once or twice after, and then once or twice since we've been together, just because. When I was with
Well,
Roberta.
I was gonna say down in Arizona. I remember, when we were down there. So yeah.
I didn't like it. Didn't like how it made me feel. Don't like when it makes me feel out of my control, out of my element. And I never tried any other drugs outside of that. Now, for you, you've never done drugs a day in your life. Not
No.
even marijuana.
No.
Not
no.
even a cigarette. He don't smoke, don't drink. What do you do?
Well, that's for another
Goody
topic.
two shoes, goody two shoes.
I won't say goody two shoes. That's for
Okay,
another
I don't know.
conversation. Whatever. Anyways.
Okay, we're not talking about speeding.
Anyways. No, but what I have done is I had a really severe accident back in 2011, and I was given pain meds, and I'll tell you, I loved them.
Mhm.
And that scared the hell out of me. So I got away
He
from them.
tells me that all the time. Like when he's really hurt, because he gets prescribed them still.
Yeah, I can easily get.
When I say, "Do you want a pain pill?" He's like, "Nope, nope." And
I
we had a
don't
discussion
want
about
to.
it one day, and I said, "Why do you always say you don't want to pay?" Now I think of it from my own perspective, because like I don't like them because I don't like how they make me feel. I don't like feeling wonky. I don't like feeling like I'm a little bit delusional, or like I'm in this
Out of
little
control,
cloud, or
whatever.
out of control, or I don't like, I if I have to, absolutely have to take one, I will take it, and I will do it the way you're told not to. I will take it and down it with some a fireball or something,
and go straight to bed.
and I go straight to bed, because I don't want to feel how it makes me feel, because I don't like it. It makes me nauseous. It makes me feel really. And one day he was like, "You don't understand. I like how it makes me feel.
And
I like the
right.
feeling it gives me. That's why I have to say, no, I
Right.
cannot
And I
participate."
think for me, that came about where my job has been, I've done a lot of leadership, a lot of supervision, a lot of, analytical work, and a lot of, detail oriented, and it's control.
And for you, it lets you a
And
little bit of
when I
out
do
of
that,
control.
I don't have control. And I'll tell you, once in a while, it's nice to just be like, you know what?
Let loose a little bit.
I don't care,
Yeah.
and to not have control at that point in time, actually.
Well, and now I think you have the ability to acknowledge also, like with drinking, like how to limit the drinking. When I drink and overdrink and get intoxicated, which has happened very few times since we've been together, but when I do, I just get funnier and funnier. I'm a hoot, right?
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Hoot, don't pollute.
Am I a hoot? I'm funny.
Yeah.
I get funnier. I get fun. I get a little risky and a little loose, maybe. There is something true to when you drink tequila.
Yeah, right.
The top comes off, clothes fall off. But for you, you go like having fun to self-deprecation, anger,
And done.
hatred, and an asshole.
Yeah.
So you have that like plateau that you can get to, and you cannot go over that.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's,
and I could just keep going.
yeah.
Like
and there's no
I
way.
never change my demeanor never changes the entire time I'm drinking. I can get so toshed that I black out and fall asleep, but I literally do it in the middle of a joke. Whereas you get to that point of
now it sometimes it does also matter with what I'm doing, where I'm at, who I'm with,
and where you were at mentally before you even
Right.
started drinking.
right. If I was grabbing,
I think a lot of people don't think about that, like where they were
Right.
at before
If-
they start.
if before I start having a sip, I'm in, it's been a bad day.
Bad
For
mood.
me, drinking to eliminate a bad day doesn't always work.
Right.
because sometimes it can just
Add
make
to
it
the bad day.
right. Now, if it was a great day or, was celebrating something and everything else, that can be a whole different situation for me, and it's different for every person. But if they can identify how that affects them and what influences them,
Right,
it makes a
right.
big difference.
Well, and I think that goes the same with if you're dealing with a loss of a family member, a loss of a friendship,
Mhm.
and I mean like falling apart, loss of a marriage. If you're going through loss at the time that you're participating, because you have those depression aspects of it, you have the sad aspects of it, because it is an amplifier
Mhm.
of whatever your mood already is. It's a depressant, but it's also an amplifier
Right.
of whatever you're already going through. So if you're already going through, if you're happy and you're going through happy things, it'll tend to probably yeah, if you're happy and you know it. But if you're already in that positive mind space,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily going to bring you down.
Right.
But you have to know your limitations and you have to know where you're at. And when I got married, my husband was at that stage of partying and hanging out with his buddies and his
Yeah.
Marines and having a good time. We're at the base and I'm pregnant. I can't participate.
Yep.
I can't enjoy those parts of it. I didn't get the college experience as a youth.
Mhm.
I got the college experience as an adult. Like I was in law enforcement when I started college. And I cannot tell you how many whispered parties I heard about. And I would be like, "Oh, you guys are," and they're like, "Oh yeah, you can't come.
Right.
Like you're a cop. Like you'll fuck up the party.
Right.
We can't have you there." And I'm like, I do know how to put the badge away.
Right.
Like I know how to not do. I don't have to be. I'm not called there.
Right. Yeah.
Unless I blatantly see somebody pull a gun out and shoot somebody, or selling a block of cocaine to
Yeah.
somebody that comes to the door. I don't have to be, but you're not trusted. And most of the people going to college at the same time I'm in my 30s. They're 18, 19, 20, 22, 23 years old.
Right.
They don't
Huge
even
difference.
they actually don't even give a shit if you're not going to be a cop at the party.
Right.
You're an old lady.
Yeah.
I mean, I went into the Army and I didn't really start college until after I was in the Army. So, I mean, my college before the Army was getting my GED.
Yeah.
So, when I went in the Army, they were 18 years old and I had children. I had 3 children. So they couldn't like pull one over on me or do anything because I already had kids that kept me awake. And so I have some of those jealousies, and that's something that I had to put in perspective on this trip. That instead of feeling bad about the circumstances that I went through, take them for the things that I was given from them. Because of them, I gave my kids something.
Yep.
I contributed something to how they grew and what they know and how they're breaking the cycles and how they're changing how they treat their children or raise their children or do certain things, and how to be a man and how to be a spouse and how to love their partner. And, so I have things that I've contributed, but there is that part that, the envious part of I missed out on something that I was entitled to that I didn't get a chance to do because of circumstances. But at the same time, those circumstances weren't just circumstances, they were choices.
Yeah.
You know, I made the choices to do the things that I did that got me pregnant, that made me get married.
They know what causes that nowadays.
My uncle told me, I'm going to say something funny. Like I don't ever say anything funny. So when I was pregnant the second time, he said, "You know what causes that?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "You know, if you put an aspirin between your knees and hold it, it won't happen." I said, "Now you just bend over."
Okay. Okay. Okay.
See, we're on the same
Oh,
wavelength.
goodness.
But the thing is there is so many things that are out of your control, and I think it takes a perspective of watching my best friend spiral out of control and lose everything, including her life,
Mhm.
over things that happened that you couldn't necessarily control. And if you look at those things, because I've been through some things that you and I have talked about, I have been a rape victim. I've talked to you about it. I was 16 when it happened. I was a child. And it took me 30 years to deal with that. And when I hear people talk about these stories with, celebrities and the Me Too movement and all that stuff, I get really pissed about it because I don't act the way, I wouldn't act the way, they wouldn't act the way. And all the victims I ever dealt with, and in law enforcement, I dealt with a lot of sexual assault. And it was, I even did public speaking about it because of the circumstances of what I had gone through. I could relate and I could understand
Mhm.
and I could talk to people about it because you don't poke your antagonizer. So, I was a victim of domestic violence. I got through that. You don't antagonize the person assaulting you or hurting you. You do not do that. You step away from it. You hide from it. You
Mhm. Yeah.
cower. And I choose not to call myself a victim.
Right.
I choose to say I am a victor, not a victim.
Mhm.
And I choose to have learned something from it and made myself tougher and stronger. But at the same time, like when I became an actual adult, my mid 20s and 30s, I also became an asshole. Like I was such a tough broad that you couldn't break through those barriers because I didn't want to be hurt. So I put up these walls that like made sure you knew where the fuck you stand
Right.
and
Yeah.
don't cross this boundary. And it took you breaking some of those boundaries down to make me really feel more whole, because you can only be so tough and you can only be so weak.
Right.
And if you're so tough that you can't allow any of the weakness to come in there to make you more balanced, then those are the ones that are really a bitch or an asshole or whatever. You have to have enough of the balance between the two to make you more whole.
Mhm.
And that's where our yin and yang is so different, but yet it helps us. It helps me bring out the best in you, and it helps you bring out the best in me. And when I see your faults or your negatives, I help you through them. When you see me with mine, you help me through those. Sometimes I have to, say, tell me,
Yeah.
and I've had to say, it's okay to tell me. It's okay to, I'm not unbreakable,
Right.
or I'm not breakable. Which is it?
It is. You're not fragile.
I'm not fragile. Yeah.
Right.
You can break those pieces apart and we can put them back together and figure them out. So when you go on a journey like this soul searching journey, my goal for this was to find myself as today. Let go of the things I had no control of. Forgive myself for the things that I did or didn't do based on knowledge, skills, ability, age, wisdom, all the things combined, and come to some conclusion of grace that said, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you made mistakes, but have you learned from them? Are you making better from them? Are you honest about them? And I try really hard to be honest about the things and not sugarcoat it, so to speak, because there is a lot of easy to sugarcoat things and make it seem so much better than it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what continues patterns. That's what continues problems into other generations, is when you don't actually face the problems. And instead, you drink the problems away, you do drugs to hide from the problems, and the reality is they're still there when you sober up.
And that's the big thing. There are certain things that, they talk about is, you can't drink your problems away because they're still there when you sober up. They also talk about, people have ideas that if they end themselves, it will save somebody else.
Right.
And, it is, as they say, it is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Right. And I will admit, even as we've been together, we've been through that struggle with me, where I felt like I was so worthless that you were better off if I just went away. No one would care if I was gone. And there's times that the only thing that got me through was my dog, not you, not my kids, not grandkids, not anything. My dog got me through it.
Right.
But then I was able to sit down and talk to you about it. And those are the hard things for people to be honest and talk about and say, I really actually faced this moment where I really, really, truly, in the depths of my soul, felt like I was such a worthless person that I was better off 6 feet deep. And that's not coming from somebody who's dealing with a drug addiction or an alcoholic addiction. I mean, I'll have this glass of Fireball and you'll pour me when again.
It'll be a while.
It's not a daily thing.
Right.
It's not a daily thing. I have it every now and then. Sometimes I'll have a glass of wine, but it's what keeps my wine cooler stocked since I don't drink it every day. But because I have been through those things and you've pulled me out of those, and I think it's because I never, honest to God, took the time to spend with myself and look at everything in its perspective, all the roles that were in play, and forgive myself and find some grace. And I never truly did that until this trip. I mean, I've did little bits and pieces and parts. A lot of it was bullshit. I admit 100%, a lot of it was ended up as bullshit. Like, tell you what I think you want to hear so that you'll feel better, so you're not worried about me when you go to work. That kind of thing. How do you feel about all the things that I've spilled out and said over this journey?
I think it was definitely a chance for you to find yourself. I think it was a chance for you to just be you and to be able to do what you felt was right at the moment, which is something that, people don't always get that chance. But I wanted to support that. I wanted to let you know that if you needed to take the time, you could do that. If you needed to go somewhere, see something, it wasn't a rush.
Right.
We were back here. We were fine. You had Charlotte with you, so you had companionship.
Yeah, you knew I wasn't alone. Were you worried at all?
No, and I think and it's not because I don't care. It's not that. It's
Did you have the confidence in me to take care of things?
absolutely. I mean, I truly do. I always have that confidence that you can take care of things. You've demonstrated that over and over again. You have that.
Well, it would
ability.
be different probably if this was my first road trip. But this was my first road trip since I got MS. By myself, major road trip.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say first road trip, but
I mean,
first major
you've
road trip.
You've done Florida and back. And,
I've done short road trips, but nothing to this length. And you've been with me most of the time. Like when we went to Minnesota and got the ambulance, and you've been with me on some of these other trips.
Mm-hmm.
And Florida wasn't super far.
Right.
Let's see. What did Samuel say?
Sam was just saying that, he's partied with some 18-year-olds while he was 30 and had a blast. It can happen, just not often. And a lot of that is environment. It is
I wouldn't know half of what I'd do if it wasn't for you. Thank you,
Yep.
Sam. I know we said this earlier, but I just wanted to share it. You do indeed be smart.
you're right, Sam, that it can, but again, sometimes there's certain things that have to be part of the mix. You have to have, a commonality most of the time. You have to have something in common to where it all works, other than the reason you know each other.
Well, and I think there's something different to that too, where they trust that you're like kind of just a younger adult, younger old person, versus you're an old person in a career field that is a control position.
Right. But also, like I was thinking too, one of the things that I can think of, Sam's in a unique position too, because
as an 18-year-old being in the military, yeah,
he was much older when he went into the Marine Corps.
Right, he was almost 30.
Right, so
grandpa.
But you have a commonality with 18-year-olds because you've done some of those things at the same time. The job that you have, the daily work that you do as a Marine with what your MOS is, you have some of the commonalities. There's other people that are in the area that you may be around that have some commonalities. So you're right. I mean, it can happen,
Well, and like I hung out and I was able to do some things with people when I was in college, when I was in law enforcement and stuff. It's not that none of it happened, but it was very slim to none.
Right.
There was more that happened when I was in the military, but at the same time, like in the military, it was like the weirdest thing because I was so much older than everyone else. And just because I was a mom and just because I was older did not necessarily mean I was mature and understood. I really had more of a child mentality because I never had that time of going
To
to college
to
and
be the
being
child,
that
yeah,
young adult,
makes
that
sense.
teenager that graduated from high school and got to go off to college and have their party days. I was doing my party days when I was in my 30s.
I still haven't done my party days. I never did in high school.
You didn't even in the Marine Corps?
No. Nope.
I don't know. We've partied some pretty hardy.
But it was in, but it, again, it was much older than life, you know.
Right.
My first duty station was Okinawa, Japan. And that was probably the most that I had of that freedom to do what you wanted, when you wanted, how you wanted, all that other stuff. I got back from Japan and was in Southern California, and in 6 months I was married.
Right.
So
right.
I graduated
So
high
you
school.
can understand a lot of the similarities to
Yeah,
what I say when I feel like I was thrust into this adulthood
Mhm.
when I was still a child. Like I didn't understand what I was supposed to understand.
Right.
And I think that's what some people don't really comprehend. You know, it was sitting there. Now 90% of the visit with Shane was with me and Shane. Kate went to bed, but before Kate went to bed, she's like, I just now really comprehended how young you were.
Mhm.
Like, and we don't talk about it enough in society about how much we don't know that we don't know.
Mhm.
You know, when you are a child, and I mean 13 to 25, you are still a child. Like you might be an adult. You might be in the military. You might be allowed to legally shoot a gun and kill somebody and go to war and be in combat and all that stuff, but you're still a child.
You still have not lived and had to make
Monumental decisions.
right. And a lot of the decisions are, yes, you have decisions you can make, but quite often it's based off of a choice. You can do A, B, or C. That's it.
Well,
It's
and it
not
was like-
it's not a wide open, you know, you go off to college, you decide, am I going to go to class or am I not going to go to class? Am I going to go get food? Am I not going to go get food? Am I going to get drunk or am I going to go do something
Right.
stupid?
Am I going to
or
go
not?
get drunk with my friends? Am I going to what
You know,
the decision process is a lot less in that it's very self-serving.
Right. Well, and let me go back to that and say, you know, I've heard lots of people say that you need to go to college because you need to be able to show that you can dedicate yourself to a purpose and you need to show that you can finish. Okay, I get that. But at the same time, I look at this. Okay, I think
going in the military shows that too.
Right.
Because you finished.
But the difference can be this, okay? You have to really, really, in my opinion, neglect a lot of responsibility to get kicked out of college. You have you have to sit there and just really decide, I'm not going to go to school. I'm going to be disruptive. I'm not going to go to class. I'm going to fail. I'm going to do all these things and I'm going to do all these negative things to get to that point. In the military, if you think about it.
Let me interject for 1 second.
No.
Yes. Because it helps with the line there.
Oh, okay.
I think also we're coming from a different perspective. And our perspective is harder to understand from their perspective because, yes, employers look at it like it shows commitment to do something. And for me, I go, it shows commitment to party, have your parents pay for it, and you have a time to sow your oats.
Mm-hmm.
That in my opinion, as an employer, than having my own business, I look at people a lot more on, oh, while you were in the military, you spent 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever it was. And to me, that shows a lot more dedication and time, because I look at somebody who went to college as like, oh, so you were committed to partying for 4 years. Maybe different because I didn't go to college till I was a much more older adult.
Right.
And I had to do it for myself. So, and every penny putting into my college education was my money. And I wanted it to mean something.
Right. Yeah. And my point with that is, you do those things in the military, you're going to be called on it a lot sooner.
Right.
It's going to have a lot more
impact
because it's going
negative
to be
impact.
It's going to be much more consequential.
Article.
Get get a
Army is
page
Article
11,
15, and yours
page 11,
is page 11.
Page 11, Article 15. It's the same thing. Yeah.
You guys always call it
a page
11. We call it Article 15, but
you
it's still at Article 15.
It's the same thing.
UCMJ.
Yeah, it's Article 15 of the UCMJ. It's a page 11 entry in your service record book, and it is there the entire time you have a service record book. It is there.
Unless for some reason.
You go back to the National Archives right now, it is still there.
Unless for some reason you managed to get somebody who was willing to call it one and strike it out and get rid of it.
But the main
rarely
thing is,
does that happen.
Right, the main thing is, it has, I think, much more consequences than in college.
Well, because
okay, the person who finishes first in med school is called a what?
A doctor.
The person who finishes last in med school is what?
A shitty doctor, but
still
a doctor.
They're still a doctor. Okay, right. You go to the military. The person who finishes first gets what?
Right.
Promoted.
Right.
The person who finishes last gets what?
Nothing. Yeah, they might get demoted even.
You might.
I mean, other than the small circumstances of fuck up, move up, which is usually in the officer category.
Well, and nowadays, and hopefully Sammy is still actually listening and stuff like that. My thing is this. The time of move up, fuck up
is over.
Is really come and gone for the most part. I'm hoping that's still the case now, but I still work my day job as a government employee.
Well, and you work for a commanding general, so
I'm sorry, I don't see people
fucking up and moving up. At least not in your.
I don't see the people that I deal with on a daily basis
being those fuck ups.
No, they
are some squared away people.
They will not put up with that.
And that's good. And the thing is, like, we didn't even get into the fires. I hopefully Steve will join me again tomorrow, so that we can actually
depends on what the pay is.
Oh, well, baby, that'll be up to me.
We'll see what you do.
How much drinks you got? Because we didn't get to the Malibu fires. Part of that was because this was a great conversation, and I think it was a good one to have. But I couldn't get the video to pop up to work. So I'll work on that, make sure it's working tomorrow. Because I really do want to talk about that, and I want your perspective, and I want you to see that. But I think that in the last 3 minutes that we have to finish this up, my taking this journey, as much as you might have had trepidations about it, did you?
I had some, because I have concerns sometimes for you with the amount of time you run. You don't stick to, I'm only going to go 8 hours, I'm going to stop. I mean, that's not you. If you feel good at 8 hours, you'll go to 10, you'll go to 12, you'll do those things. And sometimes that can be a trepidation because I don't want to have something negative happen. One of the other things is sometimes, yes, I know you can take care of yourself. I know that you go and you're able to defend yourself and stuff like that. However, that doesn't always guarantee anything. And my thing is, you cannot control and you cannot predict the other guy. So
Right.
when you're going down the road, and you talked about it, where you had a semi that tried to damn near run you off the road. You had another guy that wasn't paying attention, damn near run you into
A concrete wall.
a concrete wall and stuff. You can't control other people. So that's more where my
the best part
concerns.
about both of those situations is I was not in a sleepy mood in any way, shape, or form. I was completely alert and aware. Alert, not alert. I was alert.
Be alert. The world needs more alerts.
I was well aware of my surroundings, and it's a good thing for people to understand that even try to do a road trip or a solo road trip is you can't get into a mesmerized state.
Mhm.
Like, I will put on a podcast that has my interest to keep me paying attention, because it also helps you pay attention to the road. If you just listen to the same mundane music, after a while, it starts just going like this, and you start to get tired.
I'm too poor to pay attention.
That's what you always say.
I know I do.
And then you go buy an ambulance. Oh wait, that was my mom.
I went and picked it up.
But the thing is like the trepidations that you feel. I had trepidations before I took the trip. I don't know if you knew I had those.
Yeah, I could sense that you weren't as gung ho as you had been
In the
for
past.
other trips.
Yeah, because this was the first time I've done a major road trip by myself
Mhm.
since I was diagnosed, and I was very concerned with my physical limitations and whether or not I could handle it,
Mhm.
whether or not I could do it. Now, what told me I could do this trip home, because there wasn't a time limit and I could take my time and do what I wanted on the way back, was that trip out there, because that trip out there, I did the whole thing in 48 hours.
Yeah, you were on a timeline to get there, but
And
on the way
I
back was
got
different.
there and I made it,
Mhm.
and I was still functioning, and I didn't get there and have to just crash.
Yeah.
I was okay. And what that taught me is that I can overcome the limitations and the challenges that I have. And the other part that it told me, coming back and going through all these things that I went through and all these soul searching journey, odyssey, whatever you want to call it, pilgrimage of self-discovery, all those things taught me that if I'm going to say forgiveness and grace, then I have to leave it out there on the road.
Mhm.
If I forgave myself, and I feel like Shane and I made a huge impact with each other, and I got the forgiveness I feel I needed, and I think he felt he needed to give me for my miscomings as a mom. And that I have to also say, okay, then I have to leave that there. I can't continue to carry that on my chest
Mhm.
and on my back and on my shoulders and on everywhere, because then I can maybe focus on more of getting healthy and working on myself without feeling selfish. Because I think there's a part of you that when you start working on yourself, when you have unfinished business, that you tend to not work on yourself because it tends to weigh you down, because you feel like those moments.
It makes you remember that you have unfinished. It makes you remember that you have things you need to work on. And sometimes that is not something people want to remember. That's not something people want to, acknowledge and deal with.
I don't think most of us ever want to admit that we screwed up, that we made mistakes, that we could have done better, that, and there's always that blame game.
Mhm.
There was a comic I listened to one time. I cannot remember which comic it was. Very popular, famous comic. I think it was Dave Chappelle, to be honest. I think it was Dave Chappelle.
I was going to say something, but it's not appropriate at this point in time. So never mind.
No, it would probably be fine. But it was him saying, I just want to hear, because you always hear the guy that says, oh, my daddy beat me. My mama did this.
Mhm.
My daddy did this. I was molested. I was raped. I had all these problems happen. I just want the person that comes out and goes, my mama was great. My daddy was great. My family was great. I was raised great. I'm just a shithead.
You've been here for an hour.
That's not the same joke. Or
I
the same
know.
comedian, for the love of God. That
But
one was
that's-
black and this one was a fat white guy.
But that's what
You're
popped
in a
into my
totally
head.
different
But
ballgame.
I said that's what popped into my
That
head.
always, I think that one always pops into your head about everything. But that is true.
Mhm.
Like sometimes it is partially your parents, but sometimes it's a combination of things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's choices you make. Like you got married very young and had kids very young, and circumstances that put you in a position that you didn't necessarily choose as far as divorce goes and stuff like that. And I didn't necessarily choose, but I was in those positions. And ultimately it comes down to, but I was the mom.
Mhm.
And when you have those feelings of regret and feelings of remorse and internal hatred for the choices that you made, that now at 54, I know a whole lot better than I did at 17.
Yeah.
And I certainly could sit down with the 17-year-old me and say, listen, girl, don't do this, do this, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. That's good, don't do that. Don't go here, don't go there. That person you thought was good is not good. Don't trust this person. I was way too trusting. And I believed too much because I was too young and too stupid to even comprehend that they were bullshitting me.
Mhm.
Because I didn't have a bullshit meter yet. I didn't get my bullshit meter till I was in my 30s.
Right.
Because I think you get your bullshit meter when you're in college. That's the part of college that I think you do gain. Or maybe early military.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I didn't learn the bullshit meter till I was well into my 30s. I was way too, oh, you're really nice. And now I'm like, you're fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and that comes with age and wisdom and all those things that they say,
Yep.
The problem with youth is it's wasted on the young.
Wasted on the young.
With wisdom comes death. I know that's not what the saying goes, but
There's only 3 guarantees in life.
What's that?
Actually, is it 3 or is it
I
2?
thought it was 2.
2.
Death and taxes.
Death and taxes.
Yeah, I was like, what's the third one? Somebody tell me what the third one is.
Yeah, no, there's only 2.
Yeah, but that's the reality of it is, like, it's easy to judge yourself now. And even for kids out there, I want you to think about this. For you kids out there, it's easy to judge your sorry, my glasses are talking. It's easy to judge your parents based on your knowledge today. But you may not know what your parent was going through back then. Does that make any sense at all?
It does, because if you judge what your parents did. Say you're 20 years old. You judge your parents on what they did 20 years ago when you were born at the age of 20.
Or if you're 25 and they
You-
were 17, 18, 19.
You have no idea what they were going through 20 years ago.
Right.
You have no idea where they were mentally 20 years ago.
Mentally,
You have no
physically,
idea
financially,
where they were yeah,
emotionally,
right. Developmentally, because again,
developmentally.
you're talking about those pieces, and again, that's a huge difference.
It's almost like apples and oranges.
Well, look at this way here. Okay, we're both in our 50s, so 20 years ago, when we were in our 30s.
Oh my God, that sounds horrible.
If our kids were just being born,
right. What
okay,
a difference it would have made it.
That would be a huge difference than the fact that in reality, our kids weren't born 20 years ago.
No.
Our kids were born 30 years ago.
And plus.
So there's a huge difference in where we were 30 years ago versus 20 years ago.
Right. I mean, if you and I had, for all intents and purposes, gone the path that other people say is the right path, gone to college, maybe you still went in the military, but we met each other mid-20s, dated. This bug won't leave me alone. Got engaged, got married in our early 30s, late 20s, spent a couple years, traveling, being in the military, going to places, going to see Europe, and hey, let's do a duty overseas. And then finally said, okay, I think I'm ready to have children now. And then had 1 or 2 children at that pace and had the financial means to, you stay home and I will work, or I've already got my college degree. I can work from home because there's at home work. It would be such a different atmosphere than it was for somebody who is from the 80s that didn't have those same things. And so you can't judge a person by your personal circumstances when you don't understand what theirs were.
Exactly. That's exactly what my point was, is you cannot use your current situation to be used as the determining factor of where they were.
Like they should be doing this because I'm doing this.
Right. It doesn't. There's such a difference.
It's putting a judgment on them that they don't necessarily deserve.
Right.
And with that, as you can see,
we are way over.
I finished my drink.
I'm getting there.
Showtime is over. I finished my drink before you. Oh my God, that is never.
But
never
my gasoline is way more potent than yours.
And you had a lot more in your glass, or we had the same amount?
You didn't have. You definitely.
I don't think I had as much. I think I have about as much as you have now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe a little bit more. Anyway, that is the end of our show. I hope you enjoyed it. I do try to be honest and real. And if you like this and you like the show, and it's getting better and better as we go. But again, my name is Tori. I am the host of GurlTauX, and I try to keep it as honest and real as I can. Sometimes I talk politics. I will get into that next week. I'm not talking any politics this week. We're going over all these trip things. Tomorrow we will talk about Malibu and the fires and a few other things that go with that. And we'll finish up the rest of this part of the conversation. Steve is going to join me again tomorrow. Right, Steve?
Maybe.
No, he's going to be here tomorrow.
Depends on payment.
Do you hear this crap? Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about Malibu fires. And I know he'll be back because he's really interested in knowing about the fires and seeing the videos and pictures I have of the fires. And he doesn't get to see them unless he participates. That's the way it is. Same thing that I told the air. I mean, we'll talk about that maybe tomorrow too. But the air conditioner guys, I said, when you come back and install it, no dancing, no pay. So they got to dance for my mom. Give her a thrill. If they don't, I ain't paying them. That's just the way it is. I'm probably going to have Steve stop and get her some $1 bills so she can put some in their shorts. give her a little kick. But anyway, I am here Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. That is 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for your comments. And I did not do a Dear Margaret segment tonight. I will do one tomorrow. But remember, if you do have a Dear Margaret question, email it to dearmarg, DEARMARG @GurlTauX.com, GurlTauX. If you have a question for me, if you want to help contribute to the show, email me at Tori, TORI, @GurlTauX.com. I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so that you know when the show is going to be on. I appreciate it. See you tomorrow. Have a great night. Thank you so much for being here. And Steve, I do want to say thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And don't tell me whatever the pay is. You get paid every now and then. Love you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching GurlTauX live broadcast.
Were you saying you can't hear it?
I couldn't hear a thing.
Oh, because I had it muted.
Thank you for watching GurlTauX live broadcast, which airs weekdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't forget to send in your Dear Margaret questions. Then join us for our opinion-based answers. We love having you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Have a great night. Thank you so much.